Hello and welcome to Text to Impact with DemandBlue and Mowgli. We're excited to be sharing with you some of the SMS solutions today that nonprofits can use to better their organization. For those who I haven't had a chance to meet yet, my name is Arturo Erdicki, and I'm the practice head here at DemandBlue, specializing in our nonprofit and education team. I'm really excited to be joined here today by one of my good friends from Mowgli, Rob. Rob, you want to say hi?
Yeah, good morning, good afternoon, everyone. I'm so happy to be here. I'm Rob Blatchley. I'm the Chief Revenue Officer at Mowgli, and I am equally excited to be here. So thank you to Art and the DemandBlue team for inviting me.
Well, we're glad to have you, Rob, and so excited about the work we've been doing the past month to get ready for this and show some great features to nonprofits. So to kick us off, we're going to do an overview of what is Mowgli. I know they're a top-rated app on the App Exchange, but they may be new to some of our audience members. So we're going to kick it off with some information and explanation about Mowgli. And also for those of you that are new to DemandBlue, we'll also share a little bit about our program and services. And then I'm going to jump into a live demo and really showcase the features that we've built out with Mowgli and how you can generate some text to impact for your organization and your constituents. And then at the end, you're going to be so excited that you're going to want to know, how do you get started with this? And so we have some information on that as well that we will share with you. So Rob, why don't you get us started and tell us a little bit more about Mowgli?
Yeah, absolutely. Thanks again, Art. So yeah, absolutely. What is Mowgli? Well, Mowgli is a native Salesforce text messaging and WhatsApp solution. And what we mean by native is that everything that you do happens directly inside of Salesforce. So Mowgli is built on top of Salesforce. And it was purpose-built. I'll tell you a little bit about that in a second here, but purpose-built for nonprofits and educational institutions. But maybe the bigger question is, why would you want to text? Well, the reasons are, the first one here, 97% of Americans are texting daily. And I would venture a guess that everyone that's watching this right now has sent or received at least one text message today. And if not, then you will by the end of the day. Maybe even more importantly is, what kind of response rate and engagement rate are we getting with text message versus some of the other channels? Well, text messaging has a 98% open rate. So you're all but guaranteed that if you do send a message to someone, they'll at least read it. And if you are looking for a response, you have a call to action, whether that's clicking on a link, responding to a survey question, just responding to a one-on-one conversation, you've got a 45% chance that they're actually going to respond to you. Now, if you look at that in comparison with email open rates, for example, a typical campaign, you might get a 25% open rate, and maybe a 5 to 10% response rate on a strong campaign. So you're going to get significantly higher open and response rates with text. Next slide, please. So where did we start? So Mowgli has been around since 2011. The company has been. Mowgli SMS, our flagship app here, has been around since 2012. And as I mentioned, we are purpose-built for nonprofits. Our first client of Mowgli SMS was actually a nonprofit called Nuru International. And Nuru is doing everything that they can to end extreme poverty around the world, starting in Eastern Africa. And they told us that they're working with very rural Kenyan farmers that live in mud huts, they don't have running water, they don't have electricity, but they do have a flip phone. They have the ability to receive a text message. And what Nuru wanted to do was provide them with information on how to protect their corn crops from disease, which was their livelihood at the time. So we were able to do that. We sent messages out to 5,000 Kenyan farmers. We provided them with the information that they needed. And now Mowgli has really blossomed into a much, much more powerful tool that does two-way messaging, surveys, that does works with organizations, social ventures, and nonprofits around the world. Last slide. So how might you as a nonprofit utilize Mowgli SMS? Well, these are the the top use cases that we see. The first one is one-on-one messaging, directly inside of Salesforce, having a back and forth one-on-one message to volunteers, to donors, to your clients. Bulk messaging, sending out automated or manual large notifications and reminders, donation requests. We do a lot with surveys. So getting program information and feedback about your program to all of your constituents. It's a really great way to get that high engagement rate and response rate with Mowgli SMS surveys. We have a feature called Mowgli Voice. This is actually calling phones and having, when they answer, reciting information or having a recording. Sending drip campaigns with Pardot and Marketing Cloud, event registration, WhatsApp for international audiences. There's a ton of really great use cases. Some of the most amazing ones are going to be shown by Art here in just a moment. So thank you for that. I'm happy to answer any questions once we get through the demo as well.
Great.
Thanks, Art.
Thanks, Rob. It's always exciting to revisit the origin story and all the things that Mowgli has been adding to the platform. It's really been great to see the product grow over the past few years.
Thank you, Art.
So a little bit about DemandBlue, for those of you who may not be familiar with us. DemandBlue started in 2012 as a Salesforce partner, supporting nonprofits with their Salesforce needs. In 2020, we formed an official practice dedicated to bringing our expertise to the nonprofit and education sectors within the community. We currently serve 40 organizations and have a dedicated team with decades of experience in the nonprofit sector and in Salesforce. In addition to our certified experts in the nonprofit cloud space and our certified experts throughout the company, we are able to work with organizations that are local, like the 40 Carrots Family Center or Women Employed, to colleges and universities in Canada and US, like Seneca College or Napa Valley College, or organizations that you may know as household names, such as Mothers Against Drunk Driving and the US Olympic and Paralympic Committee. We're really excited to bring our unique on-demand approach to these organizations to really help make their mission our mission as well. So before we get into the demo, I wanted to introduce you to some of the characters you'll meet in our story today. First off is our fictional nonprofit, Dream Big. Dream Big does a lot of work in the community to help individuals, families, job seekers, and so many other members of the community find the services that they need. Steve Rogers is the volunteer manager at Dream Big and oversees the Career Center work that they do. We're going to meet some existing and prospective volunteers in our story: Dane Whitman, Shakti Haddad, and Dr. Helen Cho. And they're going to be really excited to kind of share with you how they fit into this story. So to kick us off, our story begins at the DemandBlue Employee Volunteer Fair. Dream Big is attending the fair, and Steve is there to meet with prospective volunteers. Dane is really excited about getting involved and providing more impact to his community. And so he attends the volunteer fair and gets to meet Steve. During their conversation, Dane expresses interest in learning more and signs the form that Steve has provided to gather information about prospective volunteers. At the end of the volunteer fair, Steve returns back to the office and provides that list of prospective volunteers to his marketing team and prepares the email to be sent out to those volunteers, inviting them to attend the orientation. So Steve sends that email, and the next day when Dane arrives at the office, he gets this personalized welcome message from Dream Big, encouraging him to volunteer and get further involved and learn more about the organization. Dane sees this email and is really excited to learn more and clicks on the link at the bottom to go to the orientation page. So when Dane arrives at the volunteer page, he sees that he's already taken directly to the orientation information, and he's able to read a little bit more about what he will learn during the orientation and the work that Dream Big is doing. He's really excited and wants to attend the orientation. Unfortunately, this week is pretty full for him, so he's going to have to look a little bit of time out to see when he can actually attend. Fortunately, August is a busy month for Dane, so he isn't going to register for orientation until August 22nd. But he's really excited about it and looks forward to being a part of Dream Big. So Dane completes the form, enters his phone number and his email address, and leaves this really important feature for Steve of the ability to receive text messages and alerts about the volunteer shift and other Dream Big activities. So Dane signs up and clicks the sign up button. And we're off to the races. Steve has set up some automations to allow volunteers to get confirmation messages when they sign up. So Steve sees here in Dane's message that from the Mowgli panel, there are some text messages being sent to Dane already. The first one is the confirmation message. And if we open our messaging app, we see that that message has arrived, and Dane receives the confirmation that he's set to volunteer to attend the orientation on August 22nd. If you notice in the Mowgli panel, we also see that there are 2 additional messages that Dane has yet to receive. These are scheduled messages that Steve has created to improve the engagement. He realizes that sometimes volunteers may lose their commitment and passion from the time they sign up for an activity to when that activity is there. So Steve has created these automations to keep Dane involved and keep him passionate about Dream Big and the mission that they're doing. So Dane has received the confirmation message, and he is excited to be volunteering and attending the orientation on August 22nd. Steve, being a really good and experienced volunteer manager, understands that sometimes volunteers need to, especially new volunteers, need to be engaged throughout that process. And so Steve has used Mowgli to set up some scheduled text messages to go out to keep Dane engaged between now and the orientation that he signed up for. We can see these messages here in the Mowgli panel, and we can see that they're scheduled because they have the little clock icon there, letting us know that these have yet to be scheduled, but will be sent soon. It will also show the date and the expected time of those sends. So if we refresh really quick, we'll see that these messages have now gone out. And Dane has received them. Dane's really excited to see that he is part of a team of 200 volunteers that are part of Dream Big every month, and was excited to read about Dr. Helen Cho and her interest and passion for Dream Big and why she continues to volunteer. So when Dane gets that reminder text message on the August 21st, he is so stoked and so excited to go volunteer with Dream Big and learn more about how to get involved at the orientation. Steve loves these features and the ability to send out the engagement and reminder texts to his volunteers because he finds that it really keeps them engaged and moving forward on the project. The next day, Dane is at the office and talking with one of his colleagues, Shakti, telling her about the amazing work that Dream Big is doing and how excited he is to attend the orientation that evening. Now, Shakti asks if she can accompany Dane and feeds off his excitement to be able to attend the Dream Big Career Center orientation. Shakti and Dane carpool to the orientation, and when they arrive, they see this sign directing them on how to check in to the service. Dane opens up his messaging and immediately sends a text message back, checking in that same thread that he had been receiving those engaging and reminder messages. The amazing thing about this is that when Dane has checked in, it updates his attendance to completed and records the hours for Steve automatically. It also then sends a text message to Dane, letting him know that he's all checked in and ready to go. Let's refresh and see that message. So Dane's received the, you're all checked in and ready to volunteer. We also see from the panel here that there's another scheduled message scheduled to go out after the orientation, asking Dane for some feedback. As we know, Dane brought his colleague Shakti with him. Now, Shakti hasn't volunteered or communicated with Dream Big before, but she follows the directions and goes ahead and types in the message to as directed on the sign. So she types in the phone number, correctly spells the word volunteer, and awaits next steps. Of course, she's probably going to expect that same "you're all checked in" message that Dane received, but because Shakti is a new volunteer, not someone that Dream Big knows, she received a special message that said, "Thanks for your interest. Couldn't quite find you, so we need you to come stop by the reception desk to check in." We're really excited about this, and Shakti goes in and completes that registration. And then she gets that text message that we just saw pop up, letting her know that she's all checked in and now a registered volunteer with Dream Big. Steve really loves this feature because he's able to see that Shakti's contact record has now been added to the system, that her volunteer record has been created, and that he can see that initial text that she's messaged before we even knew that she had a contact record was able to be brought into the Mowgli panel to start that history. Now, after Dane and Shakti attend the orientation, they are really excited to get started supporting the Career Center at Dream Big. Steve has scheduled these feedback texts to go out, and when we refresh, we see that this message is going to be going out just a moment. So we refresh and we see that the text message has not gone out. Both Shane and Shakti have received this feedback option, and Shakti is really excited to let Steve know about the experience she had at the orientation yesterday. She sees that it's only going to be 3 quick questions, and so she responds back with feedback and is able to engage with Steve. As we see here on the Mowgli panel in Salesforce, the feedback message has been received, and Shakti has received the first question back, which is, "How did you hear?" And we know that Shakti heard about the orientation and Dream Big from her colleague Dane, and so she responds with D. She then gets the second prompt asking her to set a scale of how prepared she feels to volunteer. She goes and she wants to give them a big 5, but accidentally types 56 by mistake, which is obviously a great, 56 is a great score on a scale of 1 to 5, but not quite what Steve was hoping for. So Steve was prepared again and is able to say, that wasn't quite what we were asking for. Can you try again? And this time Shakti sends in the 5, and we're able to continue on with the questions. We see the numbers coming in on the Mowgli panel, and the final question has come through. Would you recommend Dream Big to family or friends? Shakti is so excited, and she wants to pay it forward, just like Dane did for her. And so she gives Steve a big thumbs up. Now you may be thinking, that's not going to be an acceptable response. But Steve knows that his volunteers can be really excited, has set up Mowgli to accept that thumbs up as a yes response. And so we're able to actually close out the exchange. Now, if we refresh Shakti's contact record, we see that the messages that have been sent out are also loaded in the panel so that we can see the complete exchange between Steve and Shakti. Now, you may have remembered that during the time that Dane was waiting for the orientation, he received a text message informing him about Dr. Helen Cho, a long-term volunteer with Dream Big. So Helen is a great volunteer with Dream Big, and anytime she can come help, she's always willing to assist with whatever they may need. So she arrives today at the Dream Big Career Center and sees the same volunteer check-in sign that Dane and Shakti had seen. Helen opens up her phone and brings out the camera and quickly scans the QR code, opening the message. Now we can see here that Helen loves this feature because the message is open. It's populated with the number that she needs to text it to, and the word volunteer is already there, ready for her. So all she has to do is hit send. Now, Helen loves to volunteer at Dream Big and help out with whatever she can. Sometimes, though, she forgets to sign up for the project in advance. Steve's got this covered too, and is quick to respond with a message to Helen, welcoming her, saying, "She's glad you're here. What project is it that you're actually here for today?" And so Helen knows that she really wants to help with the instructors today. And so she responds with the appropriate shift and ID associated. So Helen has responded with the shift, and Steve is now able to go to her contact record and see that the Career Center instructor support has been added as a volunteer hours record for Helen and marked as completed. Helen also receives the same text message that Dane and Shakti received, confirming that they're all signed in and ready to get started. Now, as I mentioned, Steve, he's a really good volunteer manager, and he's already set up some scheduled messages. But unlike Dane and Shakti, who were new volunteers, Steve really wants to engage in a different way with returning volunteers. And so he is asking them to support their special summer campaign called Splash into a New Job. And so after the volunteership that Helen's participated in, she is going to receive a different text message than what Dane and Shakti received, asking her to make a donation and to contribute to this special campaign. Dane is really hoping to be able to demonstrate the value that volunteers bring to Dream Big, not just by donating their time, but also the financial contributions that these volunteers make. So after a little bit of a delay in scheduling the message, we see that Helen has now received the text and was really excited and happy with the experience she had, and was thinking back to the students that she helped with during the instruction yesterday. So she goes ahead and responds with the word donate, because she really wants to support this new campaign to help more members of the community get connected with job opportunities. She responds with donate, and Steve then responds back to her with the link that she'll need to use to make that donation. Helen clicks on the link and is immediately taken to the donation page. Is prompted and asked to make a $45 donation, which she feels comfortable making, and advances to the payment details. Now, she's really surprised here that her name has been pre-populated, as long as her email address, as someone who is a returning volunteer to Dream Big. So she enters her fake credit card number and goes ahead and submits that donation. The donation processes. She says she's not a robot on her phone. And we're able to see the thank you for that donation. Helen is really happy and excited to not only have been able to help with the course yesterday, but also support the campaign that Dream Big is doing. Now, back at the office, Steve is really excited, and he receives a notification that Helen has made a donation. Steve really wants to go that extra mile to personally thank Helen for her donation. And so he goes into the Mowgli panel and sends a personalized message, because it's not just about automation. Mowgli allows for that direct and personal exchange with volunteers and other constituents. So Dane quickly types a quick message to Helen. But Steve, as you may have guessed, is just a little bit extra and likes to give his volunteers amazing tools. Amazing images and appreciation. So he has an image that he's going to send along with that message to Helen. So Steve hit send, and we could see the preview here that a text has been sent to Helen thanking her for her donation, with an image thanking from Dream Big, thanking her for that donation. Now Helen returns to her phone and text messaging app, and she sees this message and happy cloud thanking her for her contribution, and really appreciates that Steve took the extra step to personally thank her for her donation and her contribution yesterday at the Career Center. Now Steve is really excited, and as we're getting close to the end of the month, he's looking forward to seeing how his volunteer program is operating and doing this month. So he goes to check his dashboard, and he can see that with a quick refresh, his numbers are really looking great this month. He's able to see the number of volunteers that they've engaged, the great hours that they've contributed to the organization, that he's really making a dent on those final slots that are left for this month. But he really likes that this panel is able to help him, this dashboard is able to help him engage with his volunteers. He's able to quickly see the folks that have recently attended the orientation, like Dane and Shakti, so he can do personalized outreach to them. He also loves that with the Mowgli survey tool, he's able to see how the volunteers are responding to his orientation. He sees that a majority of the volunteers are giving him a 4 or 5, and he's really excited about that, but also takes note of some of these lower scores to reach out to those volunteers to see what they can do better. He sees that family, friends, and colleagues are still his big source of referrals for prospective volunteers, and is really happy to see that volunteers, existing volunteers, are proud of the work that they're doing with Dream Big, enough to share it with their family. He can also monitor how these recommendations are going and what that promoter score is for Dream Big overall. and loves to see the yes line always going up. And lastly, because Helen just donated, he was really excited to be able to see the donations that volunteers have been making to the special Splash into a New Job Fair campaign. Volunteers are so generous to Dream Big and play a really important part in helping them to not only provide the services, but to fund the services and the mission that Dream Big is providing. So that brings us to the end of our story today. Hopefully you were able to see the power that Mowgli was able to bring to Dream Big to really create some amazing impact for those volunteers. And it really helped Steve streamline his business processes as well. Now, of course, we used Mowgli was definitely the star of the show, but we did have some cameo appearances from Marketing Cloud Engagement that sent that email that kicked our story off. We also used volunteers for Salesforce with Experience Cloud to have Dane sign up for that orientation and for Shakti and Helen's hours to be recorded. And then, of course, Salesforce Elevate for our giving page to capture that special donation. So with that, we just kind of want you to think about some of the different use cases that these solutions and the paths that we went through can do. Of course, we talked about these a little bit earlier, but just wanted to refresh your memory. So hopefully, as you've gone through this demo, you've been thinking about different ways that some of these tools can be used to support your organization. With that, I want to welcome Rob back so that we can tell you about how to turn these amazing tools into impact for your organization. So DemandBlue and Mowgli have worked together to create two packages to help bring this tool to you. Our starter package includes the confirmation and that 24-hour reminder, the check-in process that you saw, and that feedback and survey form. And Rob, do you want to talk a little bit about what Mowgli is bringing to this package?
Yeah, the Mowgli contribution to the starter pack is what we call our Mowgli starter plan. And Mowgli starter plan includes 2 outbound phone numbers. So these would be the phone numbers that you're sending messages from in Salesforce. And it includes 50,000 outbound messages per year, free inbound messages. So any of those messages that Art was showing that are coming from your constituent, those would not be included in the 50,000. It's only 50,000 outbound messages.
For those organizations that may have a little bit more to do or wanting to engage with their constituents, we do have a standard package. This standard package includes the same features as the starter package, but it does have some of those additional things that you saw, such as those additional engagement text messages between the confirmation and reminder. It also has the ability to split those follow-up messages to differentiate and customize the feedback or donation solicitation that is needed, and comes with that volunteer dashboard that Steve used to monitor his progress from month to month. Of course, with the standard package, you also get some additional Mowgli features. Rob, do you want to share some of those?
Yeah, the Mowgli standard pack, I think, includes 5 outbound phone numbers. We double the messages, so 100,000 messages per year, but it also includes Mowgli Voice. So that's the feature we were referring to, where you can actually type in a text message, send that out, and instead of sending a text message, it will call that person's phone. When they answer it, it will recite the message that you typed, or you can send a personal recording. So when they answer the phone, then they would hear that recording. And then it also includes intelligent area code mapping. And what that is we take 10 phone numbers or up to 10 phone numbers, each with different area codes. And when we send out a message to a large group, it can try to match those area codes so that the phone number that the message is coming from is the same area code as the person is in. And so it would be those 10 different area codes, or we can actually spread those across a smaller number as well to get more throughput.
So Rob, that's really great. And actually that addresses one of the questions that we received from someone. Maybe we could talk a little bit more about it because it is relevant to that area code mapping. The attendee asked if the mobile messaging works across different regions and or is it very specific? So I think this is kind of, you know, do you want to speak to how,
Sure.
where that can happen and how this intelligent code can help with that?
Yeah, absolutely. So these two packs are primarily speaking to our nonprofits here in the US and Canada. So messaging anywhere in the US and Canada is really easy with these phone numbers. You could send a message from area code A to any area code around the country or into Canada. So no problems with it being descending anywhere. The intelligent mapping would actually make it look like it's a local message that's coming in. So if we did choose those specific area codes that you're generally sending to, then Mowgli is smart enough to be able to choose the appropriate area code to match that person's. And again, that would be anywhere in the US and Canada. Now, Mowgli does work internationally. So if you are looking to send messages around the world, we do have that WhatsApp integration. And we can also do messaging and getting local phone numbers in countries around the world.
Great. Thanks, Rob. But we're really excited that you joined us today. We will be sharing the recording of the webinar with you and wanted to encourage you to visit us on our website, demandblue.org or Mowgli.com, or you can also find us on socials, LinkedIn, Twitter, etc. And so please reach out and let us know how we can help your organization have some text to impact for your mission.